How do we diagnose problems? How do we fix the things that are intruding in our life, our mental health and well-being? And I started on that very traditional path. So I've been in the field for goodness at over 25 years now. And when I started, my PhD is in traditional clinical psychology, school psychology. I sort of did a dual program in that at the University of Virginia. And as I was beginning my graduate program, the field of psychology, right, it's sort of like late 90s, early 2000s, there was a man, the APA president at the time said, he sort of charted this new course. And if we look back in history, even prior to that, there were people talking about these things, but he sort of made it official that the field as we know it, at least in America, we were going to start focusing on what he called positive psychology. So why don't we study what actually works well in humans? Like, why don't we study happiness and joy and flourishing? So that opened up this whole new field. And while I had just started this program, literally learning how to diagnose, learning about, psychopathology and all of the disorders and all of the things that you normally get taught in a program like that. So I did all of that. I worked as a clinical, school psychologist and a therapist for a lot of my career. But from that point, even as a student, I thought, this is actually my calling. This is actually what is resonating with me. So I have been studying, integrating it into my work and teaching it for decades and applying it to my own life. So I'm so passionate about it because I think we get mired down sometimes, and I can relate to this with looking at what's wrong in our life and trying to fix it. Not that there's not a time and place for that, but with positive psychology and what I like to help people do is it's just like a reorientation. It's like shifting our gaze from the mess to look what is already here right now, the beauty, the meaning, the purpose, the joy. Sometimes it's very hard to see, but through decades now of positive psychology research, we know there are actually tried and true ways that can help people. Whether you're what I like to call sort of like in a blah state, you might not call yourself depressed. You might not
Right.
have diagnosable clinical depression, but you might not say, I have robust mental health or I feel, vibrant and flourishing. You're like kind of in that gray middle, like blah. And I think a lot of
Yes.
us can relate to that. The statistics during the, pandemic were many people were dealing what we as psychologists call languishing. It's really sort of the absence of mental health. It's
Right.
a little different than, again, on the spectrum of clinically diagnosable disorders to on the other end of the spectrum, like really robust mental health. So it's sort of that in between. It's just sort of not great, but not dire.
It almost sounds like surviving, but not thriving. I know that's a little bit of a
Absolutely.
cliche, but that's what
Yeah.
pops to mind as you were describing it.
Yes. And those phrases, a lot of people like now things have become very mainstream. So things like thriving and not surviving, or things like gratitude journals and all of the things that have trickled into our mainstream life now, which I think is beautiful, didn't exist 15 years ago. And when I was, starting in this field, I was teaching about gratitude and all of the interventions that we know in positive psychology. And now it's all picked up speed. And of course, we've commercialized a lot of it and for better or for worse, but it's spreading. But most of those things have their roots in the research that started in the early 2000s in positive psychology. And it's just now more people are talking about, which is great.